Anybody object to go ahead and get started?
No.
Good, because I was going to override.
I do.
No, no. You got to put up with me. Well, welcome to fourth night of the challenge. How's everything going for you? You ready? Well, I hope you came with lots of questions because we got some professionals here tonight. I think what we'll do to help you all, how about, as we always do every week, let's go around the room, introduce yourself, tell our guests what your plans are, and then when we finish, how about each one of you all introduce yourself, tell a little bit about your institutions, and then hopefully we will start the questions. So, Sean, you want to start out?
Sure.
Tell them.
My name's Sean Cosner. I'm a 37-year-old service-able veteran. I'm also a law student here. I'm in my 2L year, about to start my 3L year. My goal, my plan is to start a coffee shop, cafe right across the street from the law school. So in the old Serendipity building over there. So that's what we'll do.
My name is Chrissy Charles. I own Fired Up Pottery, located in Grundy. I'm in the Grundy Plaza beside Pizza Plus. I've got different ceramic items. We make most of our items. I have a shop just set up where people can come in and pick the ceramic item they want to paint. I have it set up where they can paint it right there. And right now we're painting with a non-fire acrylic paint. So they get to take the item home the same day they paint it. I don't have to refire the item.
I'm David Ratliff. I plan on starting a hot dog cart, like a mobile vending, food vending business. I'm Jody Bostick, got Mountaintop Designs. I moved into the Event Center building up here, Coal Country Inn, or what used to be Coal Country Inn, next to Magic Mart. We do screen print and embroidery, and we've also got a gift shop section inside there.
I'm Manuel Ponce, and I'm here on a Women of Prayer, trying to start a food truck here in Grundy, Virginia.
Kirk, you want to introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Kirk Ratliff, and I'm with Grundy National Bank, as you can see on the card here. I do various different types of loans, from commercial to real estate to car loans, just a little bit of everything. And, we need some new business here in Grundy. We need something to help get things going. Seems like we're just at a standstill. And, I'm looking forward to listening to your kind of what your plans are for your businesses. And if you have any questions, if you need to see about financing, you're more than welcome to contact me at the bank. We're located up here across from the Wells Fargo Bank, AutoZone. I think a lot of y'all are probably familiar with it, but you can give me a call anytime.
I'm Jeremy Repass. I'm with People Incorporated out of Abingdon, Virginia. We do various things at People Inc., from daycare to housing, all the way up to the department that I'm in, which is community economic development. We do business lending or commercial lending in the sense that we try to help those folks that do not qualify for traditional lending through the banks and so forth. I always like to start off by saying that one of the primary things that we look at is that when you come to apply with us or come to inquire, we try to get you to bring something from the bank, or something just showing that where you have been denied, or the bank doesn't have a product that fits your needs, something that's not going to work at the bank. We're not here to compete with the banks. That's your primary lender. That's the best route to go if that's an option for you. But it's good to know that there's systems in place such as People Inc. and Virginia Community Capital too, that has access to things that can help small businesses get started. Interest rate right now with us, we have a set interest rate. Right now it's 7.5%. That it's supposed to fluctuate. It's supposed to be prime plus 4. However, they haven't changed it in quite a few years. But now with the interest rates kind of finding a happy medium right now, I'd look for that to change sometime soon, go up as a matter of fact. So we do lending. with money from the SBA, the Small Business Administration, right now is our main fund that we have. Outside of that, we do some tourism lending through what they call the 9th District Development, which was set up by Congressman Rick Boucher here a while back, a few years ago. It's strictly based for tourism businesses. Yeah, I mean, if you go to a bank and they're not able to do anything, or you're just not quite where you need to be, and sometimes it's not just a credit issue or those type things. Sometimes the business might be a little risky for the bank to take on. That's where we can kind of step in, get you started, and get you back to those banking standards. So if there's something you need, by all means, got my card inside the pamphlets there that I gave you, or stop and talk to me, or give me a call if you need anything.
I'm Ernie Matty. I'm a commercial real estate loan officer for Virginia Community Capital. I believe you guys met Cindy last week, who is our small business lender. We kind of work together to cover all of Southwest Virginia. We're a different kind of bank. We're a for-profit bank owned by a nonprofit. It's the only one set up in Virginia like that. We've been around about 13 years now. We only have 2 branches. There's one in Christiansburg and one in Richmond. So I actually work from my home over in Bristol. We don't do any consumer lending, auto lending, and things like that. All of ours is commercial or small business. Where we're a little different than the normal banks, since we are owned by a nonprofit, we're mission driven. So when we take a look at your deal, we're going to look first to see if it makes sense numbers wise, and then we look at the impact it's going to have in the community that you're looking to start the business or expand the business into. So if it's got a community economic development kind of push with it, it helps. Then we also have some grant programs that we use in Southwest Virginia that we leverage it with our dollars to where we can maybe get you a below interest rate, below market rate, or if there's not enough equity in the deal, sometimes we can use it as a loan loss reserve to get deals approved that we normally wouldn't be able to do it without those programs, because there are some grants that are just for Southwest Virginia. I've got my cards here. Where we differentiate with small business and commercial real estate, if you're buying the building you're going to put your business in, it's a small business loan. It's owner occupied. If you're buying a building that you're going to be leasing out space, you may have your business in it, but you're leasing out 4 or 5 other spaces. We consider that commercial real estate. So there's where we differentiate on those products. But we'd love to do some deals over here and get some businesses going.
Okay, who's going to start out with the first question?
The difficulty I had to, before I went to law school, I went through a horrible divorce, which is a common story when it comes to bankruptcy. Before I went to law school, I had to file bankruptcy. It was final in 2015, or 2016. How difficult is it to get a business loan with a bankruptcy? I know I asked the young lady who was here the other day, and she said anybody that owns more than 20% of the company has to be included on any type of credit inquiry. Now, along with that, my credit score has jumped up tremendously. I think it's like 670 or 689 or something like that since last time I checked. But my brother and my sister both have 720 pluses. My sister owns her own business as well, and my brother works for National Guard in West Virginia. So I plan on bringing them in as well as part owners. So what do you think about that? How hard would it be for me to get some startup capital?
Part of it's going to be how much you're trying to borrow and how much of your own money you're putting into it.
Sure.
The more equity you have, the more likely you are to be able to get a loan for the remainder of it. Another part will be what your collateral is going to be. What are you putting up to stand good for the amount you're trying to borrow? Obviously, if the brother and sister are going to be part of it, that strengthens the deal. The bankruptcy's been discharged. Sounds like maybe 3 years, going on 3 years out of it, and you're rebuilding. So I think we would obviously take all that into account. You've got some other mitigating factors that kind of help get over the risk.
Now, the likelihood from the normal financing options I could go through is probably slim to none for someone in my position at the current moment. Is that correct?
No, not really.
Okay.
We would take all 3 and look at you individually, just like he was saying. Depends on what type of collateral that you would have to secure the debt and the amount you're gonna borrow.
Mhm.
But we would give consideration, if you say your brother, your sister, both, sounds like they have pretty good credit scores. You know, we take a look at all of that.
Okay.
Uh,
Now,
we-
do you guys, I don't know if you do, but do you specialize in SBA veterans loans? Is that correct?
Well, it's the funding that we have from the SBA, what we do is we go to them and seek that in the form of a low interest loan.
Okay.
So it's our money, so, but we still have to abide by standards through the SBA that we've agreed to within borrowing that money, okay? With the bankruptcy with us, let's say that you went to Kirk and you didn't qualify for whatever reason, okay? He almost got to that point, just couldn't get you over that hump. Well, then someone like People Inc. may be able to step in a sense that it's going to depend primarily upon what you have done the last 3 years.
Okay.
And for lack of better words, has that bankruptcy had the impact to say, okay, I don't want this much debt anymore? You know, how well have you managed your finances in the last 3 years? Now, we're like Ernie was saying, we're going to take into consideration that bankruptcy did happen. However, it's there for a purpose. Bankruptcy does have a purpose, and it's to help individuals out once they've gotten in a situation financially. So again, and I keep going back to it, but what you've done in those last 3 years is going to make a big difference, and what you're securing the loan with.
Now, the first thing I would do, of course, go to conventional
Right.
financing, and
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Yeah. And they don't necessarily have to. Different banks have different standards as far as some require minimum credit score and so forth like that. But and you don't have to have your credit pulled necessarily to be quote unquote denied or ineligible at a bank. I mean, if you were to walk in, so say someone was to walk in and say, well, I got a 590 score or a 580 score, and the bank says, look, I can't do anything 620 or less. Then automatically the bank's not going to be able to do it. So that right there alone would be justification for us looking into it.
Okay.
And you may have some banks that they're not big fans of startups,
Yeah.
period. And we're kind of one of those. We'll look at a startup, but it's got to be strong, someone with a background in that business, a lot of equity into it.
Now, I have, from 2009 to 2014, I did about $12 million worth of work with set-asides for the United States government, so I'm a contract. I'm a licensed contractor in 3 states. My sister also owns her own business as well, and I have a mentor who actually gave me my start capital for my business. He actually owns 2 restaurants in Morgantown, West Virginia, one in Sargasso, high-end, and the other is actually named Terra Cafe, and it's a coffee small restaurant that I similar going to mimic it on or model after. So I have those things. So I do have a strong background in that. I have a business degree at WVU, grad school at ETSU. So
Yeah, all those things are something you want to put into your business plan.
Definitely.
Because when you hand that business plan over to whoever the banker may be, if it's us or somebody else, they want to see all those items. And one thing I think I mentioned at the last one of these we did, when you go to a banker, know how much money you need. Don't walk in thinking I'm going to take whatever you'll give me. That scares the banker to death. We want to see that you've spent the time. So if you say I need $18,500, you've got it broke down. You're able to tell me exactly what you're going to do with every dollar that you're asking to borrow. We want to know where that money's going, and that it's obviously going to be used for the business. The same thing when you're doing your financial projections. Just don't put them on the sheet and turn it in your business plan. Have a page with assumptions. Tell us why you think you can do the 120 cups of coffee a day, or 30 Danish, or whatever it may be, or 50 pots, or whatever. Just don't pull it out of the air and throw it in those, because we're going to look at the numbers. If it doesn't make sense, you don't want us to keep calling you at one, because most of the time we just go to one that's already got all those information in the plan. So make sure you put that time into your numbers. That's the most. I'm a banker. I'm always going to say the
Needs
most
to be
important thing
realistic.
is numbers.
Yeah.
It needs to be realistic for the area that
Yeah.
you're looking to open your business up in too. Because with projections, you can make projections say anything you want them to say. So you need to look at the area that you want to open the business in and make those projections realistic. You have to be able to sell that projection
Yeah.
to whoever you're presenting it to.
I always like to look at it from a bottom-up standpoint. Even if for someone who's already done their projections, number one, we know rural Southwest Virginia. I mean, we've dealt with different businesses. We see projections. While we're not experts in any one particular business, we do have a general idea of what would or would not sell around here. Now, granted, there's some new businesses that are going to come in. People are going to start up that is new to the area, and those are given. But if it's like he was saying, if you've blown them out of proportion, it's going to stick out. I mean, you're going to look at it and see. So I always like to tell people work from the bottom up. Work from your expenses and work back up, because then you'll know exactly how much money you have to make to stay afloat. You know, rather than top to bottom, because then what happens is you get to your bottom line, you're like, oh, I'm great, I'm going to make $500,000 this year, and then your first year you lose, $50,000. So.
And then you all have access to industry publications and info to know that you'll probably look at those just to see if their numbers are in
Sure.
line
Right.
with the
In line with
industry
what the
too.
industry.
So you can't cheat, is what I'm getting at, is they have the sources to look it up.
And we may have access to somebody that's been there before. The one of the banks you go to over here may have made the loan to Serendipity 5-6 years ago, whenever it started, and they'll actually have actual numbers from when that was in business. So,
The only one that I'm not familiar with the Serendipity, when I got here it just shut down, but the farm, the coffee shop that was, what was it called, Muddy Cafe or Muddy Water Cafe by the pharmacy that was
Yes.
connected with there. So that's the only one I know about that's I'm familiar with.
and you're at the law school, so you're talking to the students all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You'll know if you tell them that's what you're thinking about doing. They'll tell you if they're gonna go over there
Oh yeah.
and spend money on it.
And you can look at businesses in similar demographics in different areas or geographic areas. For instance, you said you were looking at doing a food truck with tacos, I guess, based around the authentic Mexican type food.
It's the word is taco de ojo, which doesn't mean it's necessarily it's going to be tacos.
Okay.
It's a Spanish term. It's a slang term that we use among ourselves when you speak slang to a Spanish person. It could be from Spain. It could be from Portugal, or there's some Spanish from Portugal. In Cuba, in Ecuador, any South American country, you mention taco de ojo, it's just eye candy. If let's give an example, a good-looking guy or a cute girl walk by and they say, you go, oh my God, I'm married, and then the guy next to you single, he goes, oh man, he'll go, tírate un taco de ojo, means just have a look, have a look. It's just eye candy. But
I like it.
the term, I had it, and it was supposed to be like a Caribbean style, Latin American food, and the logo was like this, but the logo didn't even look like this a couple of years ago. It was a piece of garbage. I mean, you might find it garbage now, but it's my logo, But it's food, but you're gonna have some tacos, not a lot, but it's gonna be mostly Latin Caribbean food. I don't know if you ever had a Cuban sandwich.
Yes.
Cuban sandwich? You had one?
Oh yeah.
Man,
He's been bragging on them every night.
have you ever had?
It's always been
Have you ever had a Cubanito?
See, I thought I'd had a Cuban sandwich, and then I went to Miami and had one. And
How was that,
then
sucker? Right? Is
Yeah.
it something you can't explain to anybody else
Yeah.
until they have it, right?
Yeah,
They can't,
and you can't
can't
get one
explain
around
to
here.
my friend here, can't, because he's not gonna know. I don't know what a Cuban sandwich
Now
is.
do we get to come back on sample
I'm
night?
I've challenged him the first night.
to make you want.
He's been.
Well, my
this
wife-
is the fourth night,
My wife said.
Have you had a cup of Joe?
and he's bringing donuts.
My wife said the only way to show them what you want to do is bring a sample of it. And I love to bring everything that I can make at home. I'd bring it if I could. But it's taco de ojo, which is kind of like Olive Garden. Olive Garden, you would look the first thing that comes in your mind: olives and garden. You might think of a salad full of olives on it, but it's an Italian restaurant. You got all sorts of stuff in there. It's kind of like this. It's taco de ojo, but it just means eye candy. And it's eye candy for the eyes, but also when you smell it, you go, oh man, I gotta see what that's all about. And once you've had a jibarito, or if you have empanadas, or if you had a taco, one of the tacos, I'm only planning to have like 3 types of tacos, and that's al pastor, steak and chicken. That's about it. and then the rest is Caribbean food style. But if you ever had a jibarito, which is it's like the pulled pork, and then you put lettuce, you put tomato, you put like a spicy sauce. You don't use the bread. You flatten the plantain, and you use those two halves as a bread. And once you've had that thing, oh my God.
This has been happening for 4 years. I can't take it anymore. My mouth, I'm starving.
He's been
I go to
overseas.
Taco Bell and they're not.
He's been overseas. I've been overseas. I've been to Haiti. I've been to Haiti and I had Latin Caribbean food. The best tacos I've ever had was when I went to. I was in the Virgin Islands. I was in St. Thomas. Some little rundown shack. I don't know who was running it. It was right there, and we were starving. It was a group of us, and we had just came from the beach. We go, oh, let's go see. This smells pretty good. You know, the smell is amazing. So we go over there. We order some tacos. He goes, what are you guys making? He goes, oh, we make tacos. We make this. We make that. Anything, my friend. Whatever you want. So we started ordering tacos. I go, holy crap! I don't know what to put in this, but it's the best tacos I've ever had in my life. You know. And then my wife at that time said, oh, let's open up a taco place. Let's open up a restaurant. You know. And I've worked at restaurants all my life. One of my first jobs, I worked at DePaul University back in the 80s. That was a true story, back in the 80s. I worked for DePaul University. Coming out of school, I used to go to Wells High School. Coming out of Wells High School, I take the Fullerton bus all the way to DePaul University. And this is back when they had Cummings, Brad Cummings. They had Rod Strickland was with DePaul Blue Demons. And I used to say hi to him. I used to say hi to Cummings. He's a huge guy. And I was just this little midget, runt midget. And I was just like, man, you guys are awesome. You guys are awesome. Thanks. High five. And they would go in the cafeteria. I'd work there. And I see how the deal was. So I said to myself, all my life, I said, man, working in a restaurant's pretty cool. You know what you're doing. And I used to always look at my mom when she cooked, but she never told me any of her recipes. But I learned on my own. But through that, I said to myself, man, it's like a good business idea, open up a restaurant. And that's the first thing I wanted to do when I came to Virginia. I wanted to open up a restaurant. I see all these abandoned places. I go, man, I said, how come they don't just give me one of these places and I'll fix it up? Because I know a little bit about construction too. So it's like, fix up one of these joints and have it, have the town come in and taste the Cuban sandwich. But I said to my wife, I say, nah, we don't have the capital, and our credit's not the best. And I said, well, I just got credit for 2 cars. You should give me credit for something, She said, well, we just let it dawn for a couple, and I've been here for a year, so it's been almost a year since I thought of that idea. But yeah, it's just.
Well, you've got the passion for it. That's the first thing you need. So. No other questions about money. It's amazing.
Actually, yeah.
All right, let's.
I've actually been on the phone a couple times today and yesterday with a lender that does commercial leases. What are your all's thoughts on commercial leases, like a lease to own, as compared to a traditional loan from a bank or what you guys do?
Go ahead.
You gotta be careful doing a lease to own, because not all places, if you've leased it you gotta make sure everything's drawn up in the front. I'd have an attorney on your side take a look at it to make sure that when you're ready to go from lease to the ownership, if you're going to a bank or somebody else at that time, we're gonna want proof that money because part of it's gonna go to lease and he's gonna spend it and keep it. We've got to verify that the other is actually going to be used towards as your equity into it. So drawing that up in the beginning is going to be key.
Yeah.
To make sure you're protected there.
And our bank, we look at doing a more traditional loan, more commercial mortgage versus a lease, because like he said. A lot of times when you pay that down, the transfer of the ownership, seems like there's always problems that arise towards the end, and we don't really like those. We'd rather just do a traditional mortgage, hold that property.
Plus, too, if they're not, as far as credit-wise, for for yourself. If they're not reporting to any bureaus or anything, then you're spending all that time paying on that real estate, and it's not doing anything for your credit. Now granted, when you apply for credit and you get it, it's gonna pull your score down, it's a given. However, over time, I mean, I don't know how long you're looking at doing a lease to own. I mean, if you're looking at doing, say, in 10 years, 15 years, I'm not sure, maybe even 30, that's a long time to pay on something to not get quote-unquote credit for it.
Yeah, well, that with talking to these people, they report to some kind of commercial credit agencies. He said the name of it, but I don't remember what it is right off the top of my head.
Unless it goes into one of the big three credit bureaus, it's not really gonna help you that much.
Trying to think of what they pull up in northern Piedmont, up in northern Virginia, they required, I can't remember what that's called.
There's a couple different commercial credit bureaus, but they're reporting you there as an individual. The only time we're gonna pull something from one of those is if it's a corporation, it's something that's got multiple owners. That's not, and for something kind of small, the food cart, that's gonna be something you're mainly, even if it's in the name of Dave's Dogs, you're gonna have to personally guarantee it. So you want something that's actually going to your personal credit file, showing that you're actually making payments on time, you're paying it down, paying it off, and things like that.
Yeah, I
Because if you're doing a cart, so you're looking to lease the cart,
Well, lease to purchase it, I'm just.
On the
basically
cart, yeah.
Trying to look at different avenues to see what I can do and what I can't do. And if I can do the lease at, reasonable
Sure.
rates and stuff like that, and it ain't like astronomical for whatever it is, possibly just doing that.
Sure. Yeah, just make sure you look into what it's gonna cost you to get into it at the beginning, how long you're gonna be paying on it, what it's gonna cost you to get out of it. It's just like leasing a car. You either turn it in or you buy it at the end of your 3-year lease period or whatever it is. And then you weigh that against what it would be as if, because you're gonna ask them give me a price if I'm gonna do the lease from you, and give me a price if I'm just gonna buy it from you. So you figure out the total cost from leasing it to own it, and then what your total cost would be if you just went somewhere and borrowed the money to buy it outright. Because then you own it.
Prepayment penalties too. Sometimes you can run
On
into
the
those
leases.
on a lease, because they want to keep you the full term of that lease, because they're making, sometimes can be making a substantial amount of money in the long run. So, if you down the road decide that traditional lending is the way to go, you want to make sure that you don't have that prepayment penalty to get out of it.
Would this be a seasonal type thing, or would you be doing this year round?
Yeah, it would mostly be utilized in the spring, summer, and fall. Winter time, granted with our winters, you never really know what's gonna happen from one week to the next. But, I'd mostly like to promote it towards, like, with, setting up outdoor adventures, different things we have here in town, and just kind of like that, rather than trying to going and setting up like a sites for lunch. Or also thought about checking with the hospital. They don't have anything on third shift. It might mean a couple hours from 1 to 2 a.m., but if there's money to be made, you can stay up a little bit for that.
No other questions?
Y'all making this too easy.
My concern was just the personal stuff, so.
Your business plan's due in 2 weeks, and as Ernie mentioned, all of that needs to be outlined. Even if you right now are not going for a loan, you still need that, because you can't go to either one of these individuals and ask for a loan without having that plan. I know we required it at Virginia Community Capital, and I think you have to have a business plan, right, Jeremy?
We do. We got I don't want to call it a program, but we've got a stipulation now to where if it's $10,000 and under, and you have employment or income outside, or if any of the applicants that are on the loan have income outside of the business that will carry the personal debt load with the People Inc. payment, then we go with a questionnaire. However, that's kind of a last resort thing. You're much better going even with us in that particular situation. You're better off coming with a full-fledged business plan because it shows that you've done your homework, like Ernie was saying.
Well, even when you're submitting these for judging, you're telling them how much money you're gonna need and spend. They're gonna look at that when they're deciding who wins, and that's part of the scoring. What's the money gonna go for? Is it gonna create a job? Is it gonna do this? Or is it gonna expand and offer something that's not offered now in this area? All of those things you want in the plan. I've scored these business plans for years, so those are things that are gonna be in, that they're gonna look at. Your pitch is one thing, your knowledge of what you're pitching is gonna come through, his passion's gonna come through when he's talking, but they're gonna look at the actual business plan and say, does it make sense? Do they know what they're talking about? Have they taken the time to see if there's any other offerings around? There's probably not any over here, there's one in Bristol. So as long as you know, you wanna have all that in there. And they're gonna, whoever's, I don't know who's scoring the plans over here, they're gonna be looking for all those items.
They're not over here.
Oh.
They won't be.
Oh,
they're
they
not
won't
here-
be.
They won't,
Oh,
they're
sure.
not here in Buchanan County.
Sure.
If you don't have a good, strong, honest business plan, then prepare to fail. I mean, in all honesty, I had a friend started up an ice cream shop in Marion. She had went in with another friend, and they had started up. Went into it blindsided, no business plan. Well, I know how much this is going to cost. I know how much that's going to cost. Started adding on different products down the line. Wasn't using a P&L. Wasn't using a budget on a month-to-month basis. And a year and a half later, they're shutting down. And the potential for an ice cream shop, if you know anything about Marion, the potential for an ice cream shop there with the way that was, I mean, you've got Park Place Drive-In on one end of town, but where they were, I mean, you're right there on the heart of Main Street where McAdoo's and all those dinner places were, an easy walk down the sidewalk. Prime location, prime business, and it failed just because they went in without a solid plan, honest plan. So,
Let's say you got your business plan and you've re-edited it and reviewed it maybe 100 times, like this one. And I think Ernie was saying about how many, when he was talking to Sean, about the customers that you want to see. I even put down how many customers I'm going to see an hour. In a startup business, normally a food truck, I asked a whole bunch of food truck guys. I'm on some forum on Facebook. I asked a whole bunch of food truck guys, how many customers do you see an hour, just so I can put it in my business plan. We see about 20 to 30 an hour, but they're in bigger cities.
I was gonna say, you gotta see where they're at compared to where you're gonna be
Right,
set up.
and a startup business plan, like one of the guys says between 15 and 20 to start up, and that's in a smaller city. If you go to a smaller city, 15 to 20 an hour to start up, and then if you don't see any customers in an hour or two, don't give up. That's just the way it is. That's the way the food business is. People will go back to their houses or come out when it's lunchtime or come out when it's dinner time, and that's the way the business market is. One thing he was telling me, he said that a food truck parks in front of some business that hasn't seen a customer in a week. But a food truck parks there, all of a sudden that guy's seeing 20 or 30 business customers in an hour or in a day, So to me, it was a good idea. Me and my wife were coming up with this a couple months ago, and we just happened to come with this challenge, and we said, well, just throw it in the fire, see what happens. But from what I see, is a food truck not only helps out the community, it helps out other businesses.
Sure.
It helps out other businesses, other struggling businesses.
It draws them.
Well, you could partner with all of them, give a discount in the store or
Just
vice
yeah.
versa,
Just
discount
start-
to you.
They
Yeah.
start smelling an empanada, or they start smelling a Cuban sandwich, or like,
I'm telling you, you gotta stop.
and then I'm gonna park in front of the shop.
That's, just park at his house.
Hey. Oh, right next to Sarah.
When I was in the Army, we used to call them gut trucks. And they'd come around when they knew what time, and they'd spend a lot of money there.
Yeah, the key to you is going to be parking in the right place.
But like you were saying, you want an honest business plan, and I've been through this business plan at least 100 times. I made corrections.
Yeah, but just make sure you said, I'm gonna see 15 an hour.
I asked.
Tell why you think you can see 15 an
I
hour.
asked about 40 food truck guys right now, 40 of them. How much do you spend a month? Just a month. How much do you spend? Everybody's saying between 800 and 1,000 a month. That's on supplies, whether it be food, whether it be propane, whether it be gas for your truck, whether it be you got a flat tire, whether it be a bird hit your windshield and you've got a cracked windshield, you got to fix it. All that fell into the 800 for 1,000 a month. Now, if you're making a lot, if you're going to a lot of festivals, you're going here, you're going to Lollapalooza, you're going to the LA Center in Los Angeles, where they got like 1 million people in an hour. That's a lot of money. But then again, the more money you make, sometimes the more money you're going to spend. You know.
Costs money to make money. In that respect, you have to put money out to make money.
But what I'm looking for is for working, but making it look like it's not work. Like once you know you're working and it's not work, and you say I'm in the right area, you know, I'm in the right area. And I honestly, I did HVAC. I learned it on my own. I learned HVAC. I learned plumbing on my own. I learned. I have a certificate for HVAC. I did drywall on my own, and I learned it. I mean, I learned it through. And when it comes to learning stuff in Chicago, they don't learn you, hey, do this, sir, do this over here. No, they yell at you and scream at you and call you all sorts of bad words until you do it right.
I think my dad was from Chicago.
Oh.
It makes sense. He lied to us.
Well, when he said something about trying to do something and not make it look like work, and then he said drywalling. Yeah, that's kind of the situation I fell into. I seen my cousin, he'd done some contracting work and stuff, small stuff on the side, and I seen him drywalling one time. I was like, man, that looks easy.
It's an art.
And you do it, or attempt to do it, I guess you could say, or I start remodeling a house, and I'm like, yeah, I can drywall that. I mean, about 2 weeks later, when it just looks horrible, I'm calling somebody and spending even more money to have it done.
And what's worse is when you smash your hands into the drywall sheets and you're putting them in to the wall, so you got room for other drywall sheets, and you accidentally leave your hand there because your partner didn't look at you, and they smash it. That's not fun. That's when you said, oh, this is not the right job.
Have you all met with Margie or anybody yet to kind of review or go over your business plan?
I go Monday.
Just keep in mind, you've got 2 more weeks before the due, and it's a big, important part of your grade.
Those SBDCs they got a lot of good information that they
also-
have at their fingertips.
I also made a forecast of 2 years on this one. I made a forecast of how much the business plan, the initial business plan was going to make, and how much it would forecast how much you were going to costs and earnings in your next 2 years. So it's got a 2-year forecast. I also did that one. I don't know if the bank recommend that or
At least 2,
Yeah.
normally
It's
3.
usually 3 years.
2 years.
Because if you're in business, we look at your previous 3 years and then look at your forecast for the next 3 years. So if you're a startup,
So
they'll want
startup.
at least 3 years.
Are you, is your plan to work festivals or?
It would all be according to what the town of Grundy, Virginia would permit me to. I'm at your service. They want me to work a festival, I do a festival. Want me to go out in front of Walmart, go out in front of Walmart. Want me to go over there by the gas station, I go by the gas station. Wherever the town of Grundy wants me to, I guess that's where I will start, but normally when you want to start a business, you want to go where the most foot traffic is. And you don't want to go back in your
So you need
yard.
to go. Need to go to the town of Grundy now and see where you can set up.
Right.
They may have ordinance where
They
you
may have an
can't,
ordinance, right.
and you need to know that.
And same way like this, like 4th of July, everyone comes out for 4th of July, but they don't allow vendors to come out. Because with my face paint business, I was never able to set up a booth and set up for face paint, even though that's when everyone comes out. The town of Grundy
You can
don't
make the
allow it.
most money right there.
Yeah, and they don't allow it. They want that for the actual businesses in town. Even though I am a business with Kids Corner, my other business, I still wasn't ever allowed to do that.
See, that's the thing. It's they won't allow her with a new idea to come out, but then there's a struggling business that fixes shoes, and I love shoes. But then again, all the people that are out there wearing gym shoes. They're not wearing dress shoes like from the. I like dress shoes, but it's to me it's like a it's like a double standard. They want you to be in the town, but they don't want you to be over here. They want you to be where they want you to be, you know?
Small towns are notorious for that.
No, and like I was telling the last time, I'm from Chicago, and I wanted to start up a food truck years ago. I mean, we're talking about 93, 94, back before there wasn't any food trucks out there. And I'm always ahead of my time. I'm always ahead of my time. And I was telling my buddies all about the internet years ago. So I went to art school and I started learning HTML, and then I started doing their websites. So I went to the city of Chicago. City of Chicago's giant offices, and they have buildings everywhere. You got to go to the right office, otherwise you get yelled at. And then you got to be in line. And the person in front of you, the person taking your information, the clerk, hasn't had their cup of coffee, so they're pretty upset already, you know. But it's this idea of a food truck. I've said it years ago. I'm just bringing it up again. That's all. You know, I had a business plan years ago, and a business plan back then, I didn't do it. It was a friend of mine who had a friend in the city of Chicago. She did it for him, but it was my business plan. Back then, they didn't have any of this stuff. You know, they didn't have a website where you could do it for free, or not $20. They didn't have that. Back then, you would have to know somebody to know somebody to know somebody. But yeah, whatever the town of Grundy would want me to park in front, I guess that's where I would be at.
Any other questions?
I don't have any.
Nathan?
Actually, I do have one more. Do banks weigh factors such as local lending? You know, if the business is going to be in Grundy, it would be better to go after
Yes,
a bank.
they do.
That's all I have for my questions.
Anything? Anything else? Did you get your questions answered? Did it give you something to think about?
Of course, when you're stacking grant awards with a business plan and trying to get money as well, that helps too.
Yeah, because
I mean,
free
you're just
money.
basically
that's equity.
Yeah.
It's more equity.
Yeah.
The bank's gonna look at total equity, how much equity is out of your pocket, but
Of course.
that grant's awarded to you, that's still kind of, it's gonna count.
And when you,
Anything to get you away from 100% of borrow
Yeah.
financing, because nobody's gonna do 100% on a startup. It's just not gonna happen.
and that's why it's better when you're seeking financing outside of the grants and so forth. It's good to have a plan, you know, when you go to different banks, you know, spread the love,
Yeah.
so to speak. Borrow a little bit from here, borrow a little bit from here, but make a plan, have a plan, and let each banker or each lender know exactly what your plan is, and so that it all comes together. Because what you don't want is to go to one bank and say, well, I borrowed, you know, $5,000 or $50,000 from here with the anticipation that you're just going to go somewhere else and not have a plan to do it, and then you get stuck in, you know, hey, I've gotten open, but now I don't have any money to cover working capital.
Working capital, yeah, operating.
And don't be afraid to lose money on your business plan. It's not uncommon. That's the purpose of borrowing working capital, is to get you through those times that you may not be doing so great. So, I mean, there doesn't always have to be a profit there, but there's got to be a plan for recuperating that money.
And isn't it important on your plan to show a secondary payment source, especially if they were applying?
Secondary payment sources need to be listed.
Now, what's
If you have other streams of income, you need to be sure that that's in there.
Like rental property or your pension or anything like that.
Because if your business plan shows you're gonna lose money the first year, and you haven't included a loan payment in, nobody's gonna give you a loan. Because you're already saying, I can't make that payment on it unless there's another source to take care of the payment until you're able to break even and then start making money on the business.
And if you're
Your
being
business ain't going, if you're going into business now to be rich that first year, it ain't happening.
right.
I'll be the first to tell you, it's not, I've never seen it.
It's tough out there.
It is.
Yeah.
It's It really is.
One of my biggest business mentors, and granted, it's way before, well, not way before my time. I can't pretend I'm that young. But before my time was Walt Disney. And on his way back to Chicago from California, I think he had something like $12 in his pocket, $11 in his pocket. And when he come back and to get Walt Disney Studios started up, they put the whole family farm up for sale. And he had built a name for himself out in California working for another studio and lost everything. And when he started up, he had nothing. But something hit me there when you were talking, and I've lost it already.
Just like Disney movies.
Personal income. If you're going to be a guarantor on the loan, and most everybody requires that personal guarantee. If you're going to be a guarantor on the loan, mine, we're going to take in your personal debts too to make sure that somebody just can't put their name out there when you don't have means to pay for it anyway. So paying for that personal debt, 90% of the time you have to have personal income or secondary income outside of the business to cover that. So.
Debt service ratios come into play too.
Mhm.
You know.
What student loans look like? What do you guys?
I mean, are you paying them back yet, or is it deferred?
No, not yet.
They're deferred.
Yeah.
We're going to look at with me, I would look at the deferment time that's left on that, and then once that's kicked out of deferment, I mean, what's the payment requirements? 3%, 4%, whatever, depending upon who it's through. So, I mean, the deferment time frame is going to factor in, and then when that kicks in, we're going to probably count that payment in if it falls within the term of the loan.
I'm dealing with one right now.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty, depending upon who the student loan is through, I think anywhere between 3 to 5% is a fair payment amount, something like that.
Usually 5 or less.
Yeah. There's options out there. That's the thing. You just have to seek them.
No, I appreciate the answers. Thank you.
I appreciate your time. Thanks, Kirk. Thanks, Shirley. Thanks,
No problem.
Thank you for inviting us.
No problem.
Yes, sir.
coming.
Will do.
Kirk, I think you got some notes.
I just want to give these
You wanna
out.
get out? Next week, we'll be talking about marketing, with Kathy St. Clair. We'll share some tips to help you. But, I've saved it every week. Don't wait until the last minute to work on your plan, because I can't tell you how important that is to the overall score.
Notepad in there.
Oh.
And be prepared for your business pitch too.
Nice.
So you'll be great on that.
But then that packet that I gave you all, there's a couple little things in there. On that flyer, it indicates that you have to match dollar for dollar with collateral with loan amount. That isn't necessarily the case. I'm not a big fan. My director and I was just talking about these flyers. We're not a big fan of that comment that's on there because, like Ernie was talking about earlier, mitigating factors. A lot of times when you go into finance, if your credit is really, really strong, then in some cases, you may get by with a little bit of under collateralization because of that good credit history. As vice versa, if you've got a low score like with us, I mean, we've dealt with scores down in the low 5s before. If you have scores that are, say, 580, and then we might require, something to be collateralized, and, you may have to have an LTV of 75%, which means that you're 125% secured. So it can fluctuate. Nobody can give you a yes or no answer over the phone, pretty much, so you got to go out and talk to people.
One question I have, can you give an example of one that just by their business plan, you automatically just, because either something was left out or whatever, an example of, because again, I stress to this how important this is for this challenge, and to them going forward. Can you give an example of?
I can't right off the bat. I mean, there was a young guy come in, sit down. When I say young, right out of college, was looking to move away eventually, but for the time being wanted to stick around. I think there was a child involved or something. Wanted to get into the landscaping business. Well, him and his buddy had come up with the idea, and they come in and sit down and talk. Hadn't really got real deep into it, but they come in and said, yeah, we want to do A, B, C, all these different things. And I said, okay, what are you looking at purchasing? What's the amount you're looking at? Like Ernie said, we're going to want to know the amount that you need and what it's being used for. We talks about buying a couple mowers, a couple weed eaters, because it's just going to be those two guys. They leave, they come back about a week later, they got this business plan, I sit down and look at it, and in order to make the money that they had, they would have had to have, and I can't remember the exact figures, and I'd be lying to you if I said anything, but like 5 people working, like 14 hours a day, mowing yards, 7 days a week. And when I sit down and I start doing the math, I didn't even make it close to what he was making. I was like, there's no way that 2 of y'all can do this unless you're, working 24 hours a day and somebody's paying $300 a job. And you're doing X amount of them within it. So again, when she says, is there anything that sticks out with the business plan, and back to what these gentlemen were saying, it was them figures. I mean, just looking at it, you're like, there's no way. It's impossible. So that's one that sticks out quite a bit to me. And then people come in and say, well, I don't have anything for collateral. I don't have anything. That one, got no skin in the game, is kind of tough.
Just make it your business plan. If it's a cookie cutter business plan, we can tell as soon as you lay it in front of us. If it's, you just, like I saw the template you were using there, if you just answered one line to each question that's in the template, it's obvious you haven't put the time into it. If you see a business plan, you can tell if they put the time into it or not. I mean, if you look at it, think to yourself, if somebody walked up to you and handed it to you and said, this is my business plan, I need $20,000. And you look at your business plan and be like, well, I'd never give this person $20,000. Then you need to work on the business plan some more.
Because they're not gonna put enough time into their business.
If they won't do it
If
the
they're gonna,
plan,
if
they're
they're not
definitely not
gonna do it
going
in
to
the
do
plan, they're not gonna do it in their business, it needs to be well prepared.
And trends, show trends, seasonal trends. Like, I can't remember who was talking, you were talking, I think, a second ago. You was like, winter months, it's kind of tough. Show those trends. You may have expenses, a bank payment or something that's going to exist when you don't have any come in. That's the difference between a P&L or a budget and a cash flow. A budget is what you're expected to do each month, and cash flow shows, during those months, are you going to make enough money to carry your overhead through the months that you are down, particularly in the wintertime. So take those into considerations, because every single business that I've ever seen has trends. There's slow months and there's fast months. I mean, tax season, prime example. I seen a meme on Facebook here a while back that says when people get their tax refund, they're eating at the Olive Gardens, the Logans, and everything. And then, like, by April and May, they're eating at, like, McDonald's off a dollar menu, stuff like that. So every business has their trends.
Used car lots.
Oh, yeah.
People get those tax
Yep.
refunds.
Yep.
They're busy.
And I want to make a point is that I like this town. The town of Grundy, it's more they're more one-on-one with you, and I've dealt that with a lot of businesses around here. They're more one-on-one. I like that. I like the old ways. I'm old school. I'm 54 years old. I've been around for a long time, and I like that one-on-one thing. And one thing I want to do, if I ever go to the lending area, I want to start a relationship with the people. I don't want to just like, hey, here. I want to maybe establish a line of credit. Maybe I got a slow month or a slow, like you were saying. You know the businesses. You know there's going to be a trend, and I want to start like a relationship with a lender that there's going to be times when you're not going to have enough. Let's say your employee got sick or he got some sort of virus and he's not going to be working with you, and you're only going to sell so much. There's going to be times I want, maybe establish some sort of relationship with the lending area to establish that type of relationship with them.
Mr. Ratliff's Grundy. I think he's all about that. So I got to study for finals, and I got a couple papers I got to write, guys. So
Good luck
I appreciate you.
on finals and on the competition.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
As well. Good to meet you. You as well. Guys, I'll see you next week.
Take care.
Anything else?
Well, good luck.